Hi, listeners. Welcome to the Alex Waters Show. I'm your host, Alex Waters, and on this week's episode, I've got with me Andrew Jester. I met him through my 100 Coffees project, of course, which is kind of like how I've met many interesting people. This is a really good chat. We just went off the cuff and talked about everything from the CIA declassifying UFO documents right through to priorities in life and dealing with social media and all sorts of things. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, but as always, this is definitely worth a listen. I'll see you on the other side. It's the starting gong.
Nice. Enjoy that. I'm ready.
Andrew, good to have you here, bro.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that was actually the start of gong.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I just made that up.
Yeah.
For those listening, I've just got Andrew Jester here. We're about to dive into a bit of a chat, and you would have just heard the sound bowl that I've got. I got it from India, actually.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in India as well.
India, yeah.
Wow.
Like I was in India.
Surprised like customs let you bring that back through.
Yeah.
I guess it's not like fruit or veg.
It.
Yeah, well, who does? And then they go back to these countries, right? You know?
Yeah. Interestingly, actually, I used that on the weekend as a part of like a ceremony.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever done any sound healing or anything like that before, but the vibrations are really insane.
Right.
Yeah.
I have not, but that's very interesting. You were down south, is that correct?
Waruna. Yeah.
Waruna, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, it was awesome. So bro, you were one of my coffees. 100 Coffees.
I was.
And that seems to be a bit of a theme. So I'm just meeting so many cool people through that avenue. And then it's like, oh, fuck, we should have recorded this conversation and shared it with people.
Let's redo it.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you remember what we spoke about?
Vague, no, I do, yeah.
Like I couldn't replay the
well, you've probably caught up with more people since than I have. So
yeah.
I would say, I mean, I catch up with a few people, but I think you've probably got me there in terms of like numbers.
Yeah. Well, you're obviously from the States.
I am, yep.
And you're feeling good to be in Australia right now with what's going on?
I am, yeah. I mean, you know, in terms of like places in Australia, I think WA is probably the best in terms of just like freedoms and what we can do and whatnot. And then in the US, you know, my parents are over there still, so I still kind of worry about them and whatnot. Maybe not so much for the virus itself, but if anything happened for them, you know, any other way, there's no really way to get over there or come back, essentially.
Right. You can't travel over there. Oh,
yes. So basically, like
flying.
Yeah, so you can basically get an exemption to go back, but apparently it's like 1 out of every 10 people get it. Yeah. So it's really rare. So and even so, getting over there and just be a massive kind of, you know, fuck around basically to do. So just that'd be the main thing I'd be worried about is if anything say happened to my parents.
Yeah.
Which is always a big fear of mine because my parents are getting up there a little bit in age.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you know, it is a worry, but, you know, what can you do, I suppose, right now?
Yeah. I'm sure, you know, if it really came to it, you'd be able to make a way in some way. I've actually heard, because my grandmother is in England and she's, like my whole family's pretty much in England, besides my immediate family and some in Melbourne. And yeah, she's a little bit ill and like it's basically really hard to get back. Like just even, you know, getting a flight, you have to basically pay for first class or business.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just to get on a plane. I don't know what the situation is. I think the planes are socially distanced as well. So they're only carrying a certain number of people.
Yeah, I was actually over in New York 2 years ago. And I'm in sort of like this Facebook group for it. And you should see the people in there. They're basically, you know, all their flights are getting cancelled coming back. So they've scheduled, like they've bought tickets months in advance. Comes down to like maybe 2 or 3 weeks before and the flights are just getting axed. Basically only people that have like, you know, booked on first class and business have sort of kept their flights because, you know, that's where they're making their money, I guess, I suppose. But yeah, it's not the greatest situation for most people, especially ones like wanting to get home as well.
Yeah.
You know, New York is New York, I guess, but it's pretty sad over there at the moment. Like what I've heard, like something like 60% of restaurants in the US as a whole have like shut down. So it's going to be a big sort of, you know, transition period. Like obviously new ones will pop up, but it's kind of like somewhere like New York where it's everything is sort of built on those small to medium businesses. It's just going to be a bit of a culture shift, I think, for a while. It's going towards like big corporations that actually have cash flow and whatnot, whereas like these smaller businesses really don't have a lot in the bank just to like, you know, get through something like this.
Yeah, and they're not getting the same level of assistance over there as we're getting in Australia.
No, not at all. I think they got maybe one check of $1,200 and that was it. So it's pretty hard to live off that, I think.
I mean, I'm traditionally pretty much an optimist, right? Like I can always see the best in every situation, but I do kind of question at the moment, you know, I've been having this conversation of, are we like, do we feel like we're in a bit of a bubble here? Because we're pretty positive. The housing market in WA is going crazy. You know, even the stock market's all you know, looking pretty strong, and it's like nothing's happened. But what's going to happen when people have to start paying their mortgage again? Like, what's going to happen when?
Well, that's it.
You know,
I think there's a lot of people wondering that as well, because, you know, obviously the banks put those mortgage holiday sort of repayment things in place, and those are actually ending next month.
Yeah.
So you kind of wonder what's going to happen post that. And I'm like you, I'm actually like an optimist as well. But you kind of do sort of hear the rumblings about what could happen. Try not to think about them, but I just want to be prepared for them worst case as well, obviously, just in case. So, you know, I've tried to like set myself up financially, just making sure that I have, you know, my income isn't too badly hit, which I have done. But, you know, there's always, you know, some unforeseen circumstance that can happen, especially like, you know, what happened with, you know, March, April with some of my clients. Yeah. So I had probably 4 or 5 clients pause during that time. Yeah. And, you know, most of them, actually all of them have come back now, but, you know, some of them just, you know, had to pause everything and just shut everything down. Business down. For a couple months. Yeah. Just, you know, it wasn't viable to keep going. But to be positive, on the other side, they've all come back and they come back stronger. Like most of them have actually come back and done more business than they've done pre-COVID. So I think, you know, people are going out and actually supporting local business a lot more now. Yeah. You know, they've seen that without people's help, local business will die. You can see what's happening in the US. We don't want that to happen here. Yeah. So it's very important to get out there and just, you know, support as much as possible, I think. Definitely. We're less concentrated with like big corporations here as well. Like, you know, as far as the, you know, the mammoth kind of scale that happens in the US. Yeah, I mean, so tell us again, like, when did you move from the US to Australia, and what triggered that move for you? It's a bit of a story, actually. So I went to high school and everything in the US. So my best mate from high school actually was from here, from Perth. So that was the year 2007, and I just decided to come out on a working holiday visa, which was just basically you can work for a couple of years and just do whatever, essentially. So I came out here just on that, had to catch up with him, stayed at his house, worked here, you know, just went, you know, had a very merry time. Yeah. What job were you doing? I was just doing sales at like the shop, basically. I worked at Harvey Norman, actually. Yeah, right. So you came to Australia from the US and worked at Harvey Norman. Yeah. I was like, awesome. I was like a 21-year-old guy and just like, you know, basically just wanted to get my feet wet. I actually credit that job a lot because I was a little bit reserved prior to that. And I dealt with a lot of sort of rejection at that job, which prepared me for everything else, because you can't do sales without getting rejected a few times, right? So I think something with that job actually triggered in me and actually kind of like made me mentally stronger. Sure. Yeah. So you grew up like kind of, like a bit awkward, introverted? Honestly, yeah. So through growing up in high school, I was actually quite introverted. Played basketball, but just wasn't, you know, just very low level sort of stuff. Kind of was just a bit skirted under the radar. But yeah, coming here actually got me out of my shell a lot, mainly because I think I could sort of start anew a bit. Yeah, everyone kind of has a preconceived notion about who you are, what you do when you grow up. Yeah. You know, and if you leave that situation, you can obviously start anew and start something fresh. Yeah. Which was really good for me, actually. It actually helped me out a lot. Probably helped that I was like an American guy coming to the Australia, and everyone's like, "Oh, hey." wanted to get to know you. Yeah, like made an effort with you because you're different. Something new and exciting. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, after that, like I did uni here. I, you know, ended up I went back to the States for a little bit, but after that, I actually sold everything I owned. Like I mean, my car, my bed, like desk, everything I had, packed everything into like 2 suitcases, and then moved back over with pretty much no idea what I was going to do. Sweet. So a bit of just, you know, blind faith, I suppose.
Yeah.
I knew I was actually going to do uni over here. So I came back over and actually did uni and then sort of like went from there.
Could you get a HEC stat and stuff?
Yeah, so you
by
can
that
actually
point?
use your US like financial aid to go to overseas
Oh,
uni.
okay.
Same sort of thing as
Yeah.
as you would.
You
over
just
here.
get like a loan in the US.
yeah, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
Not ideal, but you know it is.
Yeah.
What it
Are you
is.
still paying that off?
Yeah, of course.
Fuck.
No, it's mainly all good, but yeah.
Yeah. So you can't like because in Australia if you get a HEC stat, there's a loophole where if you
go
leave
overseas.
if you go overseas.
I heard they closed that though. I'm pretty sure.
I heard that too, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how good they are doing it, right?
Well, I don't know. Let's look it up.
No, I mean, yeah. Look, it wasn't like the cheapest degree in the world, but it was the experience that I wanted. So basically, the town that I lived in Oregon, this is like small town Oregon. It's probably had about 120, 130,000 people.
Yeah.
It's one of those places that people get stuck a lot. So there's like limited jobs. There's like they do have a uni there, which is pretty cool, but it's like a university town, so you don't really
Sure.
get that really in Australia. But like during the semester, it was like 60,000 more people than it was off semester, essentially. Yeah, I think people get stuck there with their job, and everything in life. I just wanted a clean break and to start somewhere else, and I pretty much went as far away as I could to Perth. And I think that's probably one of the things that actually drew me into the place. I think as well. It was again starting afresh, but just getting out of that situation where so many people get stuck. I've been back there a few times, and things really haven't changed.
Yeah. And the
Which-
people there are just doing the same things and
Yeah, I mean, there have been people that I know that have left, and people I know, I've got friends that are doing really well for themselves. But it's just kind of the whole ethos of the city is not ideal. It kind of has a bit of a complacency kind of vibe to it.
yeah.
Which is fine. Some people just want to do their thing and just chill out and live their life.
Yeah.
I wanted a bit more adventure and just try something different. Everyone asks me that question. It's like, why did you come to Perth? And honestly, it was because of my best mate. But I don't know, it's like the vibe here, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
it's it's warm, which Eugene, Oregon is not. That's it's just a really just like kind of miserable rainy season for like 3/4 of the year. And B, just really bright people and just just really I found it quite open and friendly. A lot of people think it's like cliquey here, but I actually found it quite open,
I
to
don't
be
think it's
honest.
that clicky.
No, I quite enjoyed just like I know I've got like a massive friendship group here, and a bunch of good mates that I'll have for life, and
Yeah.
So it's funny, like I feel like I'll truly become Australian once I've been here longer than the US, which is probably another.
But you just congratulations because you just got your Australian citizenship.
Yeah, thanks, man. About literally a week ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
I've been a PR for a couple of years, and I came eligible late last year. Did the test, did all that, and had the first sort of ceremony post COVID. That they allowed, so they were doing them like via like Zoom and Skype and stuff like that, which I found quite impersonal. I was like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I waited an extra month and got the proper one done. So it was really a big moment for me actually.
Yeah, cool.
Especially after like everything that I've gone through to get here. Like I've been on probably every visa imaginable. I think I've had some stressful times actually as well. So basically, there was a time where I was waiting for one visa to go to the other.
Mm-hmm.
I had to wait on a visitor visa, which you're not actually allowed to work on. So I pretty much had no income for 3 months.
Did you work? You didn't work?
I didn't work, no.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure I did it properly.
Yeah, okay.
Just in case anyone's listening.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, it was at the end of the day, I hung in there. I had some money saved and stuff, but it was a tough, mentally and sort of financially, it was a tough time.
They don't make it easy to get into Australia.
No, they don't. Well, I mean, it's good to have standards, obviously, I think. You can't just let every single person in that wants to, I suppose. Like, there is a set of rules that you have to follow, which makes sense, I guess. But it was a hard time, just like being kind of hopeless and like helpless, really, I suppose, just to not know. There was nothing I could do. Really.
Yeah.
Just really much get through the time and get there. So, yeah.
Like just on that and like the notions of countries and borders, I feel like makes more sense when we're on an island like Australia.
Yeah.
But I had this experience where I was in Toronto and in Canada, and we went to Niagara Falls, which is like an hour away, maybe on the train.
Yep.
And, you know, across the other side of the falls is the US. And there's a bridge that crosses and it's like Canadian flag, Canadian flag, Canadian flag, US flag, US flag. I'm like, you're telling me, and I didn't have my passport on me, right? So I'd left it back at the hotel, and I'm like, I didn't intend to cross the border.
Yep.
But I'm like, the whole notion of the fact that this is different land, is stupid. Like,
it is.
It seems stupid, and you think about Europe. There's like,
well, you get one passport, you can go anywhere basically in the EU, isn't you know?
For sure, but it's still different countries, and you know, different. Like the same with Africa as well. And I think just that notion of and South America, obviously every continent has it, but just the notion of like, yeah, you can't cross here without this paperwork, even though it's just a bit of land that someone's drawn a line across at some point. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
It is weird. Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, obviously there's been wars in the past over all this, which is just crazy to think about. But yeah, it's a good point actually. I mean,
do you ever think about a world where like that doesn't exist, and we, you know, you say, oh, it's good to have standards to come to Australia. I'm like, well, is it? Maybe. Well, like, what would happen if we didn't?
Yeah.
Would everyone just come here? But then wouldn't the middle of a desert like have people in it as well?
Yeah, that's like a very habitable land. But yeah, just a giant like just oasis of people out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting point actually. I've never thought of it that way, but yeah, I mean, one thing I think Canada probably doesn't want all the US people in there, I'd say.
True.
Especially because they have such a better healthcare system and whatnot as well. You know, like they actually have sort of, you know, government healthcare similar to Australia that protects its citizens and whatnot, whereas US is kind of lagging behind in that. And honestly, I've actually seen docos on people that actually illegally travel to Canada to get their medicine because it's subsidized by the government like it is here. So there's people that sort of like in the Detroit or Michigan area, which is kind of right in the border, they have a marriage over there, and then they're able to get sort of like a card, and they can, you know, there's a whole business behind it actually, because it's, you know, a quarter of the price, sometimes more than that.
Yeah, wow.
And then like getting like healthcare and or getting like medical attention is obviously a lot cheaper as well.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing. I mean, I think to have, you know, everything open, you'd have to have sort of like standards across the board the same, because like at the moment, I think Canada's healthcare system couldn't cope with every American just going up and flooding their healthcare system.
Yeah.
So that's probably the only problem with that, I think.
Yeah.
So if they could somehow fix that and we were all harmonious and happy and the same.
Working together.
Yeah, that would actually be great. But, you know, I think it's unfortunately probably a hard one to fix right at this stage.
That's true. Maybe a problem to solve for another day.
Maybe.
I just looked up that Hextet thing, and it got shut down in 2019, I think.
Yeah.
So there's, you know, basically it was voluntary before to make repayments if you're overseas, but now there's
clamped it down.
Yeah, done something like that.
Right.
Obviously, Australian government always.
Oh, there was a big loophole actually, so I'm surprised they didn't do it sooner.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I mean, it was a nice loophole for when it was, I suppose. I'm sure a lot of people are still overseas and not paying it, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, they're always trying to make us pay for things.
Yep, that's it. Man.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about like the whole you know, COVID JobKeeper situation right now? Because I'm hearing from a lot of businesses actually that they're struggling to find people to work for them because there's all these people getting heaps of free money from the government.
It's true. I mean, like it's actually ending. Well, I think they've actually extended it now, but it was meant to end next month. But it is an interesting sort of conundrum because, you know, the unemployment rate is so high technically, but how many of those people actually want to work?
Yeah.
You know, especially at the moment, because it's kind of building out a complacency sort of thing where it's like, oh, well, you know, people can actually just sit at home and make more money than going in and working 20 hours a week at a job.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the point of going into the job, really?
Yeah.
There's no real sort of motivation there.
It's definitely not. No.
Especially if they hate their job. If they love their job, maybe they will. But like if it's just some sort of like shitty, you know, cafe work or something that they're not passionate about, why are you there? And that's the other thing. Like, why would you want to go at a job that you're not passionate about anyway? I mean, as a young person, sometimes you don't have a choice. But, you know, once you get older, obviously you have that choice to sort of like stay in a position or not.
Yeah.
And I've explored that a lot. Like I've gone through a couple of jobs, which I just wasn't really, you know, it wasn't really a passion of mine, obviously, and didn't see the future there. And I didn't stick around for as long as I needed to. You know, I could have left, you know, a lot earlier, but I did sort of eventually get out, which I think is key. Not to just like waste away your life working for the man that you
Yeah.
really don't care about, I suppose.
So do you think, because I think lots of people come up with a challenge of like, what is their passion? What should they do in life? What do you think about, what was your process to find what you're passionate about?
Well, working in digital marketing, I think that's obviously a bit of a passion for me. I did marketing degree, commerce and whatnot. I started working in traditional marketing, didn't really find that enjoyable, to be honest. And I just saw a bit of a gap in the market after a while and saw that I could help, these small and medium business owners just succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of gets me up and gets me going in the morning.
Mm.
So that really got me going in terms of like just wanting to build up my business and sort of help as many people as possible.
Yeah.
Obviously I've turned it into a viable career, which helps as well. So I can succeed in both in terms of like providing for myself and also providing for my clients. That's the key. So
But is it like, in terms of finding that passion, because it sounds like you maybe slotted into that, is it just a matter of trying different things? And as you said, like not just doing a job for a few months and being like, this isn't a passion of mine. I'm going to move on.
I mean, I think it's trial and error a little bit. Sometimes it's through experiences, maybe like travel or whatnot, and just discovering something in another country. But yeah, it can be a different whole gamut of things, I think, that can kind of contribute to it. Life experience, obviously, as well. So, when I was growing up, I wanted to be like a government worker like my dad. Didn't work out that way, but it just I don't know. I think it's a combination of everything, I suppose.
Yeah.
Just kind of like led me to this point where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And I've been in a really good spot for the last, probably the last year and a half. My business started to grow a lot more as well because of it. I think, passion as well, because when I first started, I was doing it part-time and I was dividing up my time between like multiple avenues of things. Wasn't really focusing on the goal at the end of what I wanted. Once I sort of set that target of what I wanted from that, I really started to like show the gains out of that.
Yeah.
Which is it's a big moment for me. And probably in the last year, my business has done better than it ever has. Just
by focusing on the one thing.
Laser focus. I've got some little side hustles going on for the but they all kind of branch off of the main business.
Yeah.
So it's not something like completely out of the blue, really. It's something somewhat related.
Yeah, sure. I've played around with that a lot, but I've also kind of come to the conclusion that I'll never be satisfied with one thing.
that is I mean, yeah.
And so I create a whole heap of problems for myself because I'm like constantly trying to do many, many things at once.
Yeah.
But I feel like I do it pretty well, and just because that excites me. You know what I mean? Like having many things excites me.
I think I'm a bit ADD, so if I like try to focus on too many things, I might get shiny object syndrome and go off that way.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, one of the things that actually like gave me a bit of clarity. So when I was in New York a couple of years ago, I had an opportunity to meet Garyvee.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, and had only about a minute and a half convo with him, but it was really like sort of. Honestly, it wasn't like that profound what he said. But basically, I was doing something else with my business, and I had a side business which was not related to what I was doing. Didn't really like it. Then I also had my main business, which I kind of neglected and wasn't really doing a lot with, but I still had clients and whatnot. And all I asked him was, what do you think I should do? Do you think I'm not really passionate about this? I am passionate about this. He's like, you know what? Fuck that shit off. Just go to what you love. And I was like, cool.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's really simple words, but like coming from someone like him that, is well respected and whatnot, it actually just like kind of resounded in me and really just kind of gave me a bit of clarity. And from that, when I got back from New York, actually, is when I started like pushing a lot more time into the business.
Yeah. So it's interesting hearing Garyvee talk about that because, and you notice in his content, he is constantly trying to reaffirm that message. But I think people get confused by him because he is a businessman, really successful, working 24/7, making big money.
They call it hustle porn.
Hustle porn.
That's what people call like what he does.
Right.
Because he basically is just like all about the hustle all the time.
Yeah.
Some people say it's a bad thing because it's literally all about working 24/7, and that's what he always preaches, that he I put in all the yards for the wine store and everything else, and then sort of at the end, it paid off. But I think a lot of people were sort of saying that that's not really healthy, I suppose, just working 24/7.
Yeah.
Like for the body and mind, you obviously need to like rest and
For sure. But I mean, he
exercise.
says that he does get a lot of sleep, and he just like literally he gets like 8 hours sleep a night, but he literally just like loves what he's doing.
Well, that's it.
And that's why he says to people, just do what you're passionate about. And I think the dichotomy that most people face is their desire for success in a certain way, or like money or fame or significance, like actually is contradicting maybe their real passion, which might be, I don't know, like nursing or something. And there's, I don't know, any multimillionaire nurses who, you know what I mean? Like, who are famous for that. There's always someone in every field just like killing it in some way.
He made a good point on that. It was like, you can say you love, I don't know, being a sporting icon. You're making millions a year, but you're actually not happy because you have to deal with the press and everything else. You got a guy that's like writing newspaper articles for basketball for like the local paper, very passionate about like writing, sport, all that sort of thing. And probably that guy's happier. He's making a lot less money, but he's doing what he really loves.
Yeah.
And then not just in it for the money. It's not all about the money, honestly. It's like you got to be passionate about what you're doing. Otherwise, it's like, what the fuck? What's the point, man?
Yeah, because we're all gonna die, and it doesn't matter how big your bank balance is.
Of like, have 10 mil in the bank, but just like hate my life.
I know, because that's what will happen. You just die.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, well, no one's going to be on their deathbed and be like, well, at least I've got money in the bank. Because it's in that moment that you realize it's just numbers on a screen.
My dad actually said something to me once, and he's like, you know what? It's only money. And that it's like the simplest thing in the world, but like it's only money. Like you can't take it with you when you die, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you've got money there. Yeah, you can set up your potential kids and whatnot and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, like you want to have a happy life, and you don't want to like regret everything that you did. Maybe like whatever you're doing like was hurting people. You don't want to have that in your conscience.
Yeah.
When you're on your deathbed and you're looking up at like everything that's going on and just reevaluating your life, you really want to be like, yeah, cool, I made a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of what I want, like I'm not sure how much of a difference I'm making, but honestly, for my business, I'm helping small business grow and whatnot, and maybe it is helping someone, like giving them a better life because they're getting more sales and they're improving their self and whatnot as well. So hopefully at the end I can look back and kind of say that I've done that, So that's.
I think mine's like I'll be satisfied if I've had fun and said yes to new experiences.
That's another key thing as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't know, like, that's something tangible for me I can measure. But like, I don't know how much of an impact I'm having on people. I think I am. I think I am as well. Like,
yeah, no, I mean, like you I mean, just the challenge that you're doing with the 100 coffees is pretty cool. I think, that's when you asked me for that, and I thought that was like, yeah, cool. I like going out and meeting new people. I have to in my industry basically, otherwise I'd just be sitting in my computer all day and being very pasty. But I mean, it's one of those things that like it's all about experiencing things. I try to travel as much as possible. Actually, should be in Europe right now as we speak.
Fuck. No way. What date is it?
What is it? The 19th, I think.
Oh man, I was supposed to leave today.
I was literally going to leave the 1st of August and come back at the end of August.
Yeah,
so I would have been probably in Greece or something like that right now.
Fuck. Man, I was supposed to leave today.
You know what's really shit though? So I've got friends that are in London and stuff. Yeah. And they can all travel at the moment. So I know people that are actually in Greece now from London. They basically like they have.
Oh, they're allowed to travel around Europe.
Yeah. There's certain countries they're not allowed to go to, but like a lot of them are actually just kind of like, out doing stuff like at the beach and,
Shit.
Yeah, it is what it is.
I hope maybe at least like Bali opens up for New Year's or something. Just like, I mean, it's basically just, if it opens up, it's basically just going to be like, another capital city of Australia. For New Year's.
Well,
like,
it's been that way for a while, hasn't it? Bali. Yeah. It's like it's kind of like the unofficial other state. Of the country. So
yeah. Exactly. Talking about kind of your work and what you do, and obviously in digital marketing, how do you sort of separate your work and use of social media? Like, do you just get, because I get sick of social media if I'm on it a lot, but And I even yesterday, right, I said to my friends, I'm like, I'm deleting social for a day or two because I just need to smash out some work.
Yeah.
And then I get to this morning, I'm like, fuck, it's Wednesday. I'm
You need to
launching.
message me.
That, but I was
Yeah.
like, I'm launching the podcast. And like we launch podcasts every Wednesday.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I've got to post about it today. So I had to re-download Instagram. So
I swear if I didn't work in marketing, I just wouldn't use it at all. But
Yeah.
I use the messenger to talk to my parents and stuff like that, But it is hard to separate, honestly. Like, I find myself on it way more than I'm comfortable being.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the best way to reach an audience. There's no really two ways around it. So
that's it.
that's it, really. Yeah. I mean, like, I wish there was just like funnily enough. So on the weekend, I actually got my account. My account was suspended for 24 hours.
Okay.
I had no idea why, but like I went and checked it, and then it was like trying to send me a recovery code, didn't work. And for 24 hours, I didn't have Facebook or Messenger. It was actually really nice. Kind of what you're doing. It was honestly stressful because my business is under there.
Yeah.
But at the other end, it was really nice just to have a bit of a break from social media.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that I shouldn't be that freaked out about it, but because of the business implications, I was.
Oh, of course. Like, that's how you make money. So
yeah. So, but at the end of the day, it was actually a really nice sort of break for me.
Yeah.
Luckily, it was on the weekend. No one's trying to message me for like business stuff. But
sure.
I mean, I try to separate as much as possible, but unfortunately, it's really hard in this climate to really do it, especially now that there's still meetings going on, obviously, in Perth and whatnot, but, things are more digital now. So it's almost scary because, basically every media company or sort of social media platform has us by the balls,
Yeah.
Like, they could just fuck up our day like that, and then we're done, So people get their accounts banned all the time, and then you have to like redo it all and everything else. But, people actually have their livelihoods attached to these accounts.
Yeah.
And if Facebook or whatever doesn't agree with what you're doing, they can just ban you or, whatever.
Just don't talk about vaccines. You won't get banned.
Man,
Someone actually said that to me like recently. They're like, look, Joe Rogan doesn't talk about vaccines ever on his podcast.
Yeah.
Just don't talk about vaccines and
don't fuck with Big Pharma.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Are you employed by that?
Oh, no. God, no.
Yeah, and like you pretty much avoid any censoring issues or anything. It's like just putting it out there that's an indication of something.
Interesting.
You can draw your own conclusions from that.
Yeah, good point. I do enjoy Joe Rogan, but yeah, he's a bit sort of like has some topics that are a bit taboo that he doesn't really like go into. But he talks about everything, actually, generally speaking.
Except for that.
Except for that.
That's what I mean.
It's like he also has, I think, some interests in the health industry and whatnot as well. So he's trying not to piss too many of the wrong people off.
Yeah.
I'd say. So it's obviously a business for him. Like, he monetizes it. So
for sure.
You can't like go after everyone, I suppose.
Yeah.
If you want to like actually stay on the air and
yeah.
not have a Jeffrey Epstein incident.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know what I mean?
Yeah. This is interesting, this whole concept of things that are criminal versus things that are moral. And, there is this huge issue of censorship at the moment right across social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, just like taking people's pages down by the dozen, shadow banning people, all that kind of stuff. And I suppose the concern that I have with it all is like laws and our society has changed and evolved over a period of time as necessary. Like, things like we used to have the death penalty in Australia. You know what I mean? Like, if someone hadn't spoken up and out about that and said, hey, I think that's wrong, maybe we should change the laws. It wouldn't have changed.
Still got that in the US though, in some states.
Yeah,
which is
crazy.
It just seems like, capital punishment is pretty crazy to think about, really.
Yeah.
Like,
it is wild.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of topic, but there's like, in the US system is obviously like pretty messed up, honestly. Like, some states you can get prosecuted by having, the tiniest bit of weed and have 3-year sentence or something like that. Whereas some states it's fully legalized. You can go buy it at the shops, It just seems like a very flawed system in that way where like it's game to lose in a lot of these places.
Yeah. But do you know what I mean in terms of this, I think what I'm heading is like a conversation about free speech.
Yeah.
And what I'm noticing, probably everywhere, but particularly in Australia, is like, if you speak out about something, you're shunned by the population.
Right.
And people are like, you shouldn't be speaking out about that. It's law. And I'm like, well, Aboriginal people weren't allowed to vote until like 1965 or something. Women weren't allowed to, everything happens by allowing free speech, or evolution has happened by allowing free speech, because we have to understand that the ideals we have right now are what we have right now and need to evolve and change.
100%, definitely. Yeah, I think people are kind of brought up to not question laws, maybe like by their parents or whatever, but, that's not really the narrative that we should be following. Like, we need to obviously be constantly innovating and refreshing those laws, really, that otherwise we're never going to, evolve as a country.
Yeah.
So it's has to be done, really.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So, I mean, we break laws all the time, but
bend, break, it's all there, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are your priorities in your life? Like, how do you sort of assess where you spend your time and what you're focusing on?
I think personal growth has been a big thing for me this year. Just becoming a better person and just taking care of myself and learning more about myself. Like I said, when I came over to Australia, I was really like kind of like just a bit of a shell. I was, wasn't really out in the world and sort of didn't speak my mind and whatnot. So kind of just went along with the narrative and whatnot. But I'm just really trying to like, just become a better version of myself.
Yeah.
It sounds really like everyone kind of says that, but, trying to get more sleep, exercise more, put better things in my body, drink more water, all that sort of stuff. I did want to travel more and experience a few new countries, but that kind of got put on hold. And that was also going to further my personal development, I think, just, experiencing new things and new places and new people and that sort of thing. So that kind of thing's been put on hold, but I can still sort of, learn about myself from, myself really, I guess.
Yeah.
Just,
what are the things you've been learning about yourself?
I think it's hard to just point out one, I think, but I really sort of discovered that I was really passionate about what I'm doing. It was really touch and go for a while, and it took me a long time and a lot of years to really like discover what I really wanted to do, and that I really wanted to focus on what I'm doing now.
Yeah,
and that was the main thing, I think, and just bought my house, have the whole sort of thing kind of coming together, but I really wasn't there in terms of what I wanted to do for, at least the next few years in terms of building my business. So,
and how old are you now?
I'm 34.
So you feel like you've just figured that out?
I've just figured it out. It's taken me forever, honestly.
And that's like I just want to share that because, there's probably a lot of people listening who are a lot younger than you and I. And I kind of feel the same. Like I almost feel like I'm still sort of figuring things out. Yeah. And maybe you never really get to a point where you've got it all figured out. But just like giving permission to people younger than, or at any age really, that it's okay if you want to make a change. It's okay if you don't know what you're doing.
I didn't start my uni degree until I was 24.
Yeah.
So that's usually when people had finished by a few years.
Yeah. Cool.
So I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do. I came over here, did a little bit of uni, stopped, worked, did some stuff, just kind of went traveling, opened up a bit more as a person, finally kind of got the idea of marketing, ran with that. So I didn't finish till I was about 28.
Yeah.
So I finished a lot later than most people. But that's okay. Honestly, I think people take as long as you need to really just, figure out what you want in life, really.
Yeah.
So it's, I got in the workforce pretty late and then only started like discovering what I wanted to do for myself sort of a lot later as well. So I think my 30s have been some of the most productive years of my life, honestly. My 20s, I was a little bit lost and didn't really know where I wanted to go. But, people look at 30 as like a big, scary thing. But I think it's probably like some of the best times you'll have, honestly, in terms of like personal development and everything, really, Yeah, I
agree. Yeah, I honestly feel like this next decade is going to be like the best decade of my life.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so too, man. Yeah.
I wanted to talk. I've been wanting to talk on the podcast for a while about the CIA and UFOs and stuff because I don't know how much you keep up with the New York Times, whatever, but only like 4 weeks ago. I feel like you're just a good person to talk to about
They
this.
declassified documents?
Yeah.
I know about that.
Yeah. But I don't reckon people really... no
you know
one
what's
seemed
funny?
to take notice.
I actually read something on this the other day, and it was like, someone was like, people, like, the CIA just released all these documents about UFO, and no one noticed because we're in the middle of a, like, crisis or whatever, you know? So it's almost like they did that strategically so no one would notice.
I think so.
Honestly, like, it's a very interesting topic because I've always actually thought UFOs were a big thing, and I believe it in, actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
So my dad told me this story when I was growing up, and he swears this on his life. Like, he was about 10 years old and was looking out of his my grandma's window, and he swears that he saw an alien craft land on his lawn and then leave.
Whoa.
And he makes a lot of jokes, but he's like dead serious when he talks about this. And that actually sparked my interest when I was growing up, and I kind of did more research and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a very, very interesting topic for sure. Like, what made you kind of come up with this? Like, what like sparked your interest in that stuff?
Oh, a friend sent it to me, and I was like, what the fuck?
Did you...
Because there were some other declassified documents as well on transcendental meditation and astral projection. Do you know what that is?
I refresh my memory,
Yeah. So transcendental meditation is just a style of meditation and kind of accessing altered states within the brain and stuff like that. So they did a lot of stuff on that, which is cool. But astral projection is the process of like closing my eyes and basically projecting myself in a physical sense out into the world somewhere else. As in, I could astral project myself and go for a walk around the block.
Yeah.
Right. And these parts in this, so this is like all woo-woo spiritual hippie shit that people have been talking about for a long time, and now the CIA have verified, like validated it.
Really?
That's legit.
How did they sort of like do tests on that, I wonder?
Well, so they had the subject of the test. They gave him specific longitude and latitude coordinates, and then he astrally projected himself there, and described kind of this like Russian spy base with satellites and stuff
Go
like
visit
that.
my parents. Maybe
So?
I should go visit my parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, go to Greece now. I can just tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. You go lay on the beach. You just have to close your eyes. So that was the first step, and then they did a double-blinded study on like the second one, and I'll add links to all this
Awesome,
at the end of the episode. I'll send it to you. But the double-blinded study was that they gave a map to the people running the study. That map just showed ocean in a certain part and like some land, but it didn't show on it a small island that was where they gave the coordinates to this guy, who was the subject. So the guy who was the subject was given these coordinates once again, and he starts describing an island and like basically perfectly mapped it out. And the people examining him were like, "Oh, it's bullshit because you know on our map it's ocean."
Yeah.
But obviously they found out that
Wow.
it was legit. So
that is very interesting.
yeah, well, it makes you think about A, what's possible, but B, the fact that probably the CIA have used this to spy.
Yeah.
And therefore you think about what other countries are doing, like to use it to spy.
Yeah, right.
And that's what humans can do.
That's crazy. Yeah, no, wow. I need to read more to that document, actually.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I just think that's amazing. And the whole UFO thing, like, didn't they declassify information that said they were in possession of spacecraft or craft that like wasn't human?
I saw some of the videos. It was like of fighter pilots, and they're like, "What is that?" Like, it literally was just like not flying like any craft they had, and they even like admitted it on the video. Which is really, you know, it's crazy to think about because like they're pretty much like admitting that like we have no idea what this is.
Yeah.
And they most likely do have something in their possession as well.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we're not alone.
We're not.
Basically.
The truth is out there.
Well,
for any X-Files fans.
I you know, kind of going back to the borders thing and borders of countries. I have this thesis that, you know, if aliens were just to like invade us tomorrow, we'd probably just, you know, be like, oh, okay, we're humans. You know, let's just stick together.
Yeah.
Instead of all this separation and like infighting that's happening.
Sounds like Independence Day, but no, I think
it's been years since I watched that movie. So.
yeah, no, but I think it's kind of like the plot of every movie, right? So like basically, everyone unites over a common threat, like a interplanetary threat, essentially. But yeah, it's true, and I think that's something might happen in the future, like whatever natural disaster, like an asteroid or whatever. Like people generally, it's either going to go two ways. You're going to have everyone uniting, or it's going to be massive wars and everyone starts like fighting, essentially. Which it could go either way.
China or Russia try and make friends with the enemy who's invading or shit like that.
So you would hope it goes the peaceful route.
Yeah.
And or if there is, for instance, like an alien invasion, like you said, that would, you would hope it would unite people. But yeah, like it's very that's a good way to think about it, really.
Yeah, man, humans are just so weird. Like we've literally got all the resources we need for everything here, and yet there's still like billions of people dying of like starvation every day. That statistic's not right. Obviously billions aren't dying every day, but you know what I mean, like billions in poverty. It just baffles me sometimes.
There's greed, obviously. It's a big problem in the world. And there's a lot of people that just aren't looked after, obviously. And it's not a great time for a lot of people at the moment, but in general, but hopefully sometime soon that we'll kind of unite on that front and battle that issue and just like hopefully eradicate it, really. That'd be, if I can see that in my lifetime, that would be probably something I'd really like to see and give me some hope for humankind just going forward. Just have some sort of big issue like world hunger or something solved by some way or another. And props to all the people out there like actually doing something about it, obviously. There are a lot of like good people out there that have a lot more skills than I and that can really make a difference. So that's one of the things that I think about that I wish I kind of had a bit more reach on and be able to help. And I don't have probably the smarts or the to get out there and do it, but not everyone's built for it. But I really do hope that someone kind of comes up with a solution for it, obviously.
Yeah. Interesting. I had a friend suggest that we just like fly a plane across the world and drop psilocybin mushrooms everywhere. So everyone starts eating them and they awaken. They start realizing what's going on. And then, everyone kind of works together as collectively to solve the world's issues. So
that sounds like a great idea. I think you need to have a pretty big supply to drop it to everyone. You have like fields of the mushrooms growing somewhere.
Well, maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Hey, this is a business idea, man.
If anyone's listening that can help me with that, then or with the world hunger thing, definitely get in touch.
Please do.
Andrew, it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure chat as well. I really appreciate you having me down.
Thanks for coming to Cottesloe.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm sure we'll catch up soon.
Definitely, mate.
Thanks, bro.
Awesome.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that episode. As always, you can find me on Instagram at Alexander Waters, or check all the links below in the description for more on the CIA stuff, to get in contact with Andrew, and or use his business. And there's a few other things in there as well. And don't forget to tune in to next week's episode. I'll see you then.